Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Alberta Landlord Community Shop Talk Show. I have with me Bill Biko, the educated landlord. Hi, Bill.
How you doing?
Good. What are you doing? You're messing around back there.
Well, I'm just getting it loaded up over here so I can see some of the comments and feedback and information and your shining face in a couple places.
Oh, good. Maybe I should set myself back here instead of being in everybody's face. So, quick story. MacKenzie's not able to be here tonight. Man, is he ever raspy. Woke up this morning with a nasty cold. And so he says, I'm out. He can't do it. So he popped in for 30 seconds to make sure I was technically sound and handed me a couple Band-Aids and said, good luck, bud. And off he went.
And threw me at you.
No, we always love having you on the show, Bill. Absolute pleasure with your knowledge and the background you have. So tonight, folks, we are going to chat about, it's open mic again. We love these shows. So hopefully we have lots of people joining in. Put your questions into the question box or comments, and we can see them come up, and we will answer them live on the show. And we're also going to talk about some of the stuff going on the page of recent with some people sharing information they shouldn't have. I've had 2 evictions that I did. I'm just helping some landlords out. Bill asked me a great question a few minutes ago, said, are you doing evictions now? I said, no, they were just something that fell into my lap where the other guys were a bit busy. So I just decided to do them. And, but I don't normally do them, but I help people out where I can. Your go-tos on our page are Rob Bonin and Donald Gray. They're 2 great guys. So, it's just something I picked up just to help my learning curve a little bit with the RTDRS. So hold on tight. Go get yourself a quick drink and tea, coffee, or whatever your spirit is, that your beverage of choice. And we'll see you guys shortly. And Alberta Landlord Shoptalk. And here we are. It's rock and roll. 12 people already clicked in. Look at that. Awesome. I think there's some stuff we're going to touch on the page. So I think it'll be a great little show tonight. And we can go from there. So where do you want to kick off at, Bill? Is there any little things that come to mind with you?
Well, why don't we start with what you've been doing with a couple of these evictions? And then we can segue from that into the other blowback that kind of came out of the one.
Blowback. Yeah,
is that a safe way to put it for you?
It sure is. And there's even a law enforcement component with it. So let's make sure we touch on that, because I want to give you folks some real encouragement when it comes to dealing with the police when they're rattling your phone or your door handle and saying, wagging their finger at you. You have a little more power and a little more knowledge, hopefully, when I'm done explaining some things. So my first eviction that came up was a gentleman from the page who said he needed some help, and he had an Airbnb that he had rented out and over time, but then decided that he wanted something a little more steady, because the Airbnb was a lot of work for him, and he had to move out of Alberta. So getting someone in was a little more steady. Connected with someone that he got in there as a rental, and there were some little issues back and forth to resolve on what should be there, what shouldn't be there. But one of the biggest problems that happened, and actually this is the biggest problem in both of my cases here this week, no lease agreement signed. Oh, did you see that? Did you see Bill? Did you see the look?
The twitch.
The twitch. Yeah. Bill, tell me how you felt about that at that moment.
That's brutal. I mean, I've been doing this. I've been helping landlords with stuff like this for, what are we at, 13, 14 years now. And whenever I hear they don't have a lease, it blows my mind. It's so important to have the lease in place, to have some of the basic rules in place. The next step is when they I'm going to go off on a tangent here. Sorry about this, Chris.
Easy.
They don't understand that they need a lease. They don't understand what they need in the lease. They don't understand how the lease can protect them. They don't understand the proper lease to use. And I've seen all kinds of crap with that too. Somebody using a lease from out of province or that's totally irrelevant to Alberta or Saskatchewan. I believe we've got a bunch of the Saskatchewan people watching tonight as well. So yeah, you need a lease, and your lease is like a living document. It evolves as you evolve and as you learn what not to have in it and what you need to have in it, and as the rules change. So leases, so important. Go on.
Well, I get you to get your composure. Let's just say hi to Christine, our regular viewer. She sends us little notes on the side how much she loves Wednesdays, and right back at you, Christine. Hi, welcome. Thanks for coming back. And go a little further down the list. And there's Lewis.
Lewis in the house.
Good evening back to you, Lewis. Bill Fox. I'm not sure I've seen your
Fox
name.
in the hen house here.
Oh,
so
well, welcome aboard, Bill. By all means, this is an interactive show, so make sure you put some questions up. And Teresa, thanks for coming. She says, "Hey, Bill, does she know you?"
I think we may have chatted. Well, I know Bill as well, though. So I bumped into a lot of people. It's crazy out there.
I wonder what the look was on Teresa's face when we said no lease. She goes, yikes. No lease. So anyway, let's kick into that. So this person starts off mid-September. They do a prorated rate for September to get in. The lease is, it's sort of a verbal agreement, and the renter gets in there and decides, oh, I'm in now. Let's do some hard negotiating. So we're $2,500 all in furnished unit. Well, I only want to pay $2,300. Okay, fine. Just pay $2,300. 2 weeks later goes along, and well, I want you to cancel the internet and the TV, and I'll deal with that myself. So I want another $200 off. So now we're down to 25, 23, down to 21. Whatever else comes up, it now gets down to 2,000. So we're at the end of October, and we've been beat down, or the owner has been beat down from $2,500 a month furnished unit to $2,000 a month, downtown Calgary. November, $2,000 is paid. December, I forget the payment schedule, but at the end of the day, $2,000 was paid. January comes around. The renter says, well, I haven't got this yet. I haven't got this. I haven't got this. I haven't got this. Lists off a bunch of things. The barbecue's not working. The fireplace isn't working, so on and so forth. Well,
it's cold out.
It's cold out. Well, the fireplace is a nice to have. And as part of it, the landlord really isn't wanting the fireplace to be used for insurance purposes. And it's a gas fireplace. And people a lot of times are abusive of that. They just leave it on. And that's just money straight up the chimney. Those are pointless. They don't do any value in heating your house. So anyhow, January comes around, and the renter is now negotiating even harder that he wants to pay less rent. I didn't see your eye roll yet, Bill, but you can probably see where this is going.
Go on, yeah.
So then
what's happening too.
Then there's drama in the sense that now the renter's family member has died and need more money. So the tenant finally says, okay, fine, look, I'll give you another $450 off. So January knocks another $450 off with the understanding that going forward, it's going to be $2,000 a month. February comes around, and the tenant has said, well, I don't have a key fob yet. I don't have this yet. I don't have that yet. I'm not paying you. Well, part of the conditions of having the key fob was that he had to do some paperwork with reference to the dog, and the condos association was doing a little bit of pushback with the owner and not wanting to hand out the key fob. And there's other drama behind the scenes. So let's deal with the landlord on that part. The landlord needs to pay attention. If you're going to remotely run a business, you need to hire someone to deal with this stuff for you. I don't know if you're in agreement with that, Bill, but
you need feet on the ground if you're not close.
Yeah. So there's a lot of little things. Should they have been taken care of by the landlord? Yes. Are they reasons to withhold rent? Absolutely not. There are only very few reasons to withhold rent under the RTDRS. And Bill, do you know one of them?
I can't recall them off the top of my head, but it's not for things not working, basically.
Well, one of them is for not providing a lease, not providing a paper copy of the lease. Am I correct on that? Not sure, eh?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, if you don't provide a lease, if you don't
if you don't provide a copy of the lease, if it's signed, there's
ramifications.
Yeah, but we have no lease in this case.
Well, in this case, there is a verbal lease, and what happened was the landlord actually did send a lease to the person, but how that was handled, there was issues with that. But at the end of the day, we have a verbal lease, and that's what the court recognized, or the hearing recognized, was that there was a verbal lease, and in addition to that, there was a record of payment that showed that even though it was a verbal agreement, there was a history of how it was being paid at $2,000 a month. So that stood on its own. And if you don't have a lease, a verbal lease does stand. However, it's up to the RTDRS officer to sort out with all the he said, she said, where there's some common ground in there. And they were able to do that through the payment history and acknowledgement. Yes, a lease came. No, it didn't get signed, back and forth. And the client or the renter admitted to having paid some rent. So at the end of the day, the hearing officer ruled in the favor of the landlord, and said that you owe 2 months rent, February and March, and you also owe $225 of court costs. So, and you're moving out at the end of March. End of story. So, had the guy just paid, and then I could have done a little bit of piecework between the owner and the tenant and saying, look, you need to do this. You need to pay, go back and forth and be a mediator. It would have worked out. I attempted that, but there was no coming to any resolution. They were both so upset with each other. It was just a bad scene. So anyway, that finished up. Then it goes to now because he's refusing to pay, it's $4,200 and better. We ended up with a posting on the page. And didn't somebody screenshot the post and send it out? Imagine that.
So I guess this is what's frustrating. What would the point be for that individual to do that, especially if they were a landlord, to be sharing that with a tenant who's been kicked out? Sorry, phone's ringing over there.
Yeah. What's the point of it? Here's my assumption on that. One is, okay, PG-13, they're a shit disturber. Okay. And they get a jolly out of being a troll and sending something out. And they got into our group by lying. We do the best we can. I want to make that clear with everybody. We do the best we can by screening people. And we send out extra questions when we're not sure. We do a lot of checking internet-wise as to whether people are legit or not. And, there's people
slip through. It happens.
It happens. It's, what, if you think you can do a better job, you're more than welcome to join our team. It's that simple. However, we are a private group, and in here we have people, and we can't protect all of you. We can't be perfect, but at the end of the day, we tell you, you need to post the truth. And the truth in this is a piece of paper that said, we have a judgment against you. So we put that on there, or I did, and I posted it for the landlord that we have a judgment for $4,200. And I said, Calgary landlords beware. I had to deal with this guy. I know exactly what he's like. Would I ever take him as a tenant? 150% hard no on that.
Yeah.
Because I saw what he's like. He's demanding, and I provide what I provide, and that's why there's a check sheet when you go in.
And there's a judgment on his credit bureau.
There will be. Well, we gave him the option to pay it and get it taken care of. Otherwise, we're going to send it into the landlord credit bureau. So back to your question is, what's the purpose of this person doing that? One, I guess he could know the guy and he's a friend. He has to be a friend because I couldn't find a Facebook page on the guy. So they have to be a friend, and that's fine too. I welcome them. I'm not afraid. Bill, you and I talked about this before. I'm not afraid of these people that put that out there because we deal legitimately with what we can legally do. And that is post your truths, post your judgments. There's not a darn thing anybody can do about it. You can go to a newspaper and you can go get a billboard and put it up there.
Yeah.
I don't know why you'd spill the money on a billboard for a couple of $1,000, but anyway, at the end of the day, we're here as a community to protect each other, and that's what we're doing. And if I can help a couple of Calgary landlords out by avoiding this guy, I think it will. We've had people on here that have said, "Oh my, I guess I didn't screen her close enough. I see you had something posted and I missed it. And I took her as a tenant. And now she's dealing with the same stuff." That's totally unrelated to what I'm talking about. But this is how we helping each other out. So thank you for posting that community snitch. The guy called the police. Oh,
scary. Scary.
The police are involved.
Yeah.
So ask your questions. If you got questions, put them up. What did the police say? Well, they showed up here, put the handcuffs on, took me away. And I'm kidding.
His girlfriend posted bail. He got out. It was a rough 24 hours.
Okay. So what the real thing that happened here, folks, is the policeman called me. And it was Calgary police. And he says, "You have a few minutes to chat." And I said, "Absolutely." And he identified himself as who he was. I knew right away what it was. And it was one of the two out of Calgary I was doing, but I was pretty sure.
Good idea which one.
Pretty good idea which one it was. So anyway, he had I had a really good chat with him. He said to me right up off the bat, he said, I've looked at your page that he can see, because there is a portion of our page that's public in the sense of rules, what we're about and things like that. He also can look at findgreattenants.com, which is our YouTube channel. And he went on and looked at that. He did his background search to see what we're about. And he saw that we are providing a community for people to provide information to other landlords and educate each other. And just a really strong ethical base here for people to do a good job. And he saw that and he checked out and he watched some of the YouTube. Then he called me.
Nice.
And he told me he had done all that. And I thought, wow.
I like this guy already.
You know what? As soon as I heard police, I was defensive, but I knew exactly how I was going to deal with it. But you know what? He had me won over in seconds because he was an educated police officer. He took the time to understand what he was dealing with. And he says, "You know what? I just got to ask your side of it as a matter of protocol. Can you talk to me for a few minutes?" I said, "Absolutely." So we had a great chat. And we talked about it, and he understood exactly what we were doing with this, and he understood exactly what we could do with what couldn't do legally, and we're well within all guidelines. And you know what? A little give and take. I offered up a portion of changing, modifying my post slightly on a particular point that I made, and he was happy with that. Went back to the tenant, and I don't know what happened from there, nor do I care. So my point to bringing the police part into this is knowledge. You as a landlord need to understand what you can and cannot do. And that starts with reading the RTA. I saw a question go up the other day where someone asked about a lease ending. I don't know if you saw that, Bill.
I saw your post on your comment on that.
Yeah. And you know what? I provided a link to the Residential Tenancy Act. This is grassroots knowledge that you need to know as a landlord. And that's why I tell you, you know what? Go down to Staples, go buy some paper, or go into and print off the Residential Tenancy Act and the Residential Tenancy Act regulations and have that stuff and read through it. It's not a long read. And after you read it a couple times, you begin to understand it a bit better, because the lingo is legal lingo, but in the end, it'll make sense.
Eventually it makes sense.
It does. It does. Because the first time you read, you go, "Oh my God, I don't even understand this." But it talks about evictions and the 5 or 6 different points under Section 21 of what you could do to evict somebody. Talks about leases, when they're due and when they're not due, and what you have to do. So, and after you've read that, if you're still in a bind, then put your question up. But say that you read it and you don't understand this particular section. Then you'll get some people putting some good input in.
Yeah, maybe an interpretation on something. I'm a little confused. I read this in the act. Does it mean this or this?
Right. So when we get the repeated question up, Bill gets his hair up on his back. And he calls me and he says, "Chris," I go, "Just wait, Bill. let it smooth out.
Yeah.
So, this is a hello here from Rab up in Edmonton. Thanks for joining us, sir. Pleasure. And Teresa put a question up, probably said it was a civil matter. Yes, he actually did. The police officer did say it was a civil matter. We both knew that going into this. He knew it going in. There are times, though, when they're not a civil matter, they're a provincial statute matter. And test question, Bill Biko. What is a common provincial statute matter that landlord and tenants fight over that police can give a ticket on?
Changing locks.
Changing locks. I think it's about a $420 ticket. Police don't know that. That it's that simple of a fix. Did you change the lock? You're going to give him a key? No, I'm not. Okay, here's your ticket. Done.
Going to give him a key now?
You're going to give him a key now? No. Okay, here's another ticket. Yeah, you're going to give him a key now. Okay, you're continuing the offense. You're now under arrest. So, and anyway, there's a lot more that can be done, and your fine goes from 400 probably up to 2,000. So it's not worth the hassle. Give the tenant the key. Follow the Residential Tenancy Act rules, get them out. And that's what we do here. Taking a key away from a tenant.
And vice versa, though, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, tenant changes locks, the landlord can't get in.
Exactly.
We have that fight quite often heard.
Yeah.
Tell me some of your experiences, sir.
You know, I don't run into that very often. I mean, that's been, seems to be coming up more and more. I don't know if tenants are just becoming more, I don't want to use the word protective, how about belligerent, and just thinking they can get away with more stuff. And it might have a lot to do with people being from out of province, because that's the other thing I see a lot. People spouting rules that simply don't apply here. And a lot of it's just tenant base from out of province coming here and thinking we all operate under the same set of rules. You know, we hear landlords, and I had a comment on this, I think it was last week, where somebody was complaining about how the tenants have it so good. And when you really sit back and look at our rules here, they don't necessarily have it good. It's actually pretty darn balanced between what happens and what we're allowed to do. There are some challenges with the length of time it may take for landlords to get tenants out at this point. And that's, you know, there's a couple issues there. Maybe we need more hearing officers. Maybe we need slightly different processes to get it done smoother. But it's a pretty balanced system once you've gone through it a few dozen times, or even a couple times actually. But when you see how it works and how it plays out, you know, it's back to, well, if you have a lease, it's a lot simpler than if you don't have a lease. If you understand how the rules and you're not moving people's belongings outside onto the lawn, you know, it goes a lot smoother. If you understand some of the statutes where you can actually have the police involved instead of going, well, I'm going to have the police show up and kick them out. And it's like, no, it doesn't quite work like that. But they can give them a ticket for changing the lock on you, right? And it's back to knowledge. It's understanding the processes.
A lot of times tenants think they use the police. They're going to use and police are get called in as a pawn. Today was a classic. Police was used as a pawn. Well, the pawn picked his toys up and took his ball up and he went home.
Yeah. It was either the police or the lawyer they have on retainer.
Yeah.
Even though they can't afford to pay rent.
Speaking of lawyers on retainer, let's talk about how we post on the page and people being scared of posting on the page.
Sure.
Let's throw that over to you. How do you feel about it and what's your position on that?
I guess
posting about renters is where I was going.
Okay. You know, if it's a fine line, you know, if you have evicted somebody and you've got a judgment, it's pretty cut and dry. You got paperwork, you got everything to show it, you know, you've actually evicted them. If you have a situation where you're calling out a tenant being horrible and dirty and messy, and you post a few pictures and I look at them and go, holy cow, you should see my daughter's room. Or, you know, that's not even close to some of the mess I've seen over the years. You know, it's like, now you are kind of dangling into that slanderous, libelous type area, you know, and depends who you end up with, where it falls. Mm-hmm. So, you know, have your facts, have it balanced out. It's like, okay, I've evicted Jimmy, blah, 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 for non-payment. He left before the hearing. It's all factual. You've got a paper trail probably showing all of that. So if it did ever get down to some kind of civil matter, you can back up everything.
Mhm.
If it's left to an unbalanced, he left it a despicable mess and it could cost thousands of dollars to clean up. And then you look at the pictures and it's like, well, you could probably get that cleaned up for a couple $100 and it wasn't that bad. Now it is libelous. Now it is a little over on the other side and it could cause you issues.
Mhm.
What's your response to that?
Well, my view is that you post the truth as long as it is the truth and that you're prepared to go to court and tell your story, you're fine. The people that share the stuff from the page, we'll continue to look for them. We'll get them and we'll kick them out and we'll make an example out of them. However, you post your judgments, you post your truths, and there's nothing to worry about. Taking a picture of how they left a residence, picture's worth 1,000 words, right? Like we say.
Yeah.
These are the people that rented from me. I did my walkthrough and this is how they left it. That looks pretty simple to me. There's nothing libelous about it.
But you're not exaggerating about how bad it is, and you're not.
That's right.
So it's that defining line of, this is what it was left like.
Yeah.
Judge for yourself versus they're horrible, despicable people and they're desperately dirty. And
as soon as you start using a few extra descriptors, that's where you're going to get yourself in trouble. Yeah. I'm not sure how people live like this. That's fine. I'm not sure how they live like pigs, or I don't know how. Okay, that, you know what? What's the point of putting the emotion into it? Deal with the facts. The facts will speak for themselves. And at the end of the day, you will win, and you won't be fighting a second war front because you've posted something that that wasn't appropriate. So I'm all for, fill your boots, post the stuff. When the tenant calls you up and say, I want this off, you did this and you did that. Well, you know what? I'm not afraid to tell them, too bad, so sad. It's the truth. Call your lawyer, because most of them, they can't pay the rent. How are they going to come up with a
call your lawyer you have on retainer?
Yeah. The lawyer for you paid $3,000 or $4,000 to represent you. Give me a break. Yeah. It's not happening. They won't do anything. They don't turn the wheels unless you put $3,000 cash down.
Yeah. Christina's got a couple of comments there. I don't know if you can grab those, Chris.
Yes, I will. Wow. Look at this one. Christina says she made a claim in British Columbia 2 weeks ago. Get this. I will have our case heard October 13th. I think that's because the tenant's already left. Well, thank God the tenant's left.
Yeah, that's the key point. It doesn't seem to matter, well, except for Ontario. It doesn't seem to matter in Alberta or BC. If the tenants are around, they seem to go fairly quickly. But once they've left and it doesn't affect the property as much, they tend to push those to the back burner more often than not. And in Ontario, they just push them all to the back burner because the tenants can appeal and appeal and appeal and appeal and drag it out.
Yeah. This just goes to show you, I'll be honest, folks, any of the landlords I've talked to, they're jaw dropping as to how good we have it here. No system's perfect, and we're looking for that. Well, I want the perfect system, but you know what? In comparison to Ontario, Quebec, and obviously British Columbia, I don't know the other ones as well, but you know what? I get a hearing within 2 weeks here because we've set up a system for it, and as long as my facts are very clear and concise, there's no better system than what we have.
And I guess that's part of it too, Chris. When you're doing this right, the hearings are pretty quick and simple. When you're doing it wrong, the hearings get appealed or deferred or pushed off, and suddenly it's 3 or 4 hearings and it's delayed even longer, which means the landlords who are doing it right, it takes longer to get them in because of all the other issues.
It was interesting. One of the comments from a tenant was, I only got served this 3 days ago or 2 days ago, and I haven't had time to prepare my defense. And you're going to laugh about this, I hope, is the hearing officer said, what is your defense to not paying your rent?
Yeah, that was in the clerk or the hearing officer's notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read through that.
Yeah. What is your defense for not paying your rent? What is it you need to prepare to explain why you didn't pay your rent?
Yeah, and you've been aware of this for a while because it was an ongoing action.
Yeah. And we're 2 months into not paying rent. And the guy says, well, the question was, I don't think it's fair that my landlord has representation and I don't.
Yeah, saw that too.
I just go, it's not fair. Well, get somebody.
Yeah, it's not fair that you didn't pay your rent for 2 months. That's why we're here.
Exactly. So it's not about being fair. It's about the person who, I guess, feels that they're a victim. Well, they've created their
And
own.
we talked about this too. It's like too many people are watching or reading stuff out of different provinces or watching stuff on TV and think it's actually applicable, not only in real life, but in Canada. The stuff we see on the US TV about suing people and technicalities and all this other stuff it has a place, but it doesn't seem to fall into a lot of the landlord stuff that we deal with each day, unless it's being abused, of course. But
Yeah. Yeah. So
are we ever measured tonight? We're not drinking. It's like we're very calm.
yeah, no, it's just, you know what, it's an enjoyable topic because I'm comfortable, and I just want to leave this show tonight, and those of you who watch it later, letting you know that when when a tenant starts screaming, I'm going to call my lawyer. You will see. I'm going to call the police. You know what? Hand them your phone and say, would you like to use my phone? You know what, Bill, you snicker, but it's true. And I'm kind of trying not to laugh too. You know what? Hand them your phone. Like, go ahead. There's too much else going on, for one thing, that these other agencies are not going to have anything to do it. Two, it's too expensive for them to do it. And three, and most importantly, they don't have a case to begin with.
Yeah.
You run your business with a proper lease, run it ethically, do what you're supposed to do, follow the guidelines. They can scream all they want. They can make themselves the victim in the whole thing. They can lie, they can embellish, whatever they want to do. At the end of the day, all the hearing officers care about is the facts. Did you pay your rent? Well, I haven't paid it for 2 months because I'm upset because this happened and that happened. That's not a reason to withhold your rent.
Will you pay your rent? Well, I'm not going to pay my. Then
I'm not going to pay unless they do that. Yeah. You know what? This guy here was trying to hold the landlord ransom and continually beat him down for another $100 here, another $100 there. And that came out in my attempt to mediate it, and it came out in the hearing. So it's what it is, right? Let's grab some questions off the page. What do you think?
Sure.
You got the page up there?
I got to bounce around. Hang on. I'm coming back over here.
Maybe some people that are watching there's still quite a few of you here. Do you have some questions? Throw them up and we'll answer for you, because Bill's
slow.
Huge background knowledge that I love tapping into. He's like my calmer. I phone him up when I'm all rammed up over something and I say, Bill, he goes, Chris.
And we swear at each other for a couple of minutes. And
he says, Chris, how do you really feel? Oh, here's a great one here. Alice, A-L-Y, Alice, I'm going to say Alice Pie. She says, has anyone got residential window tinting done? And we have some south and west windows that heat up our properties like a greenhouse. Any recommendations?
I got nothing.
I got some. I did that.
Put in blinds.
I changed my windows out, and I have a south-facing big picture window.
Okay.
And what I did was I ordered specifically, because I know that the sun beats in there and it messes with the heating system. I ordered what's called a bronze on that window.
Okay.
So they bronze the window and it stops the sun from coming in. And what the tenants that were in there, once I put those in, it changed the whole house completely. It didn't heat the upstairs, and the heat stayed balanced.
Regulated.
Yeah, regulated. And there was no heating the living room anymore. So the summertime, it just reflected the sun back out.
So I did actually have one property like that, and we applied the film on the inside windows, and it made a difference. Probably not to the degree that your bronze windows did, but high quality windows can make quite a difference in a situation like that as well.
Yep. So contact your local glass companies and see if they have material big enough for your windows to go on, and have them put a tint on. Should be a reflective, because that's what you're trying to keep is the heat out, because it's messing with your systems within the house.
Okay. Here's one as well for you from Janelle. Hello, if a tenant asks for keys early to move in, do you pass them over without charge or charge a daily prorated fee? What are your thoughts, Chris?
Do you know what? You're going to have to repeat that, because I was reading Teresa's, and this is going to be our next question, because I'm like,
okay.
Wow. Tell me what you just said, please.
All right. Hello. From Janelle Maharaj.
Okay.
If a tenant asks for keys early to move in, do you pass them over without charge or charge a daily prorated fee?
Oh, okay.
What are your thoughts?
Well, this is exactly what I do. If you're going to let somebody in early, Depends on how many days. If it's a week early, it's prorated fee. 5 days, maybe prorated. Do I give them the keys? Not without the damage deposit and first month's rent coming up that they're going to be going into. I want to be paid. They don't get to come in without the payments.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, obviously you need everything done, all the paperwork done, all the payments done, everything signed off, all the paperwork's passed through. Yeah, if it's a couple of days because the weekend falls on the 28th, 29th, and the first is a couple days later, sure, why not? If it's a week, now you're getting to that point where it's like, well, I'm kind of doing you a favor. Why don't you do me a favor and we'll prorate it a little bit? Or if it's supposed to be, prorated exactly to $300, let's make it $200. I'll eat a little bit of it. You'll be in there, and I know the place is taken care of early. Will that work for you? You've given a little bit, you've taken a little bit. You're going to be out the money anyway, but now you've also been compensated for some of that time as well, and you're still the good guy. So just kind of balance it out. If it's 2 weeks, yeah, you're paying for it. It's like, you want to do it. If it's an especially tough market, maybe you'll make an adjustment. I'm helping a landlord with the lease right now, and there's like a 2-week crossover. So the tenant is paying for 2 weeks. So it's just going to work better. It makes his life easier because it's not a panic move on a weekend. You just kind of balance it all out.
Yeah. And you know what? My answer is pretty cut and dry, black and white, but I 100%, if there's a deal to be made and your tenant's going to love you and you've built a relationship because you said, yeah, just give me $50, move in or whatever. Maybe you don't give anything. Like Bill said, what's a couple of days? You're paying for it anyway. Or maybe your last tenant moved out a week early and the place is empty anyway. You're already being paid for it. Why do you need to double dip?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, look at this here. Teresa Billingsley is from California. Now, Teresa, I'd like to know if you're a California resident and you're watching our Canadian Alberta show here, or whether you're sort of just a snowbird keeping warm down there. I'd like to know more. And it's an absolute pleasure having you here. So she says, we're really backwards and the judges here are tenant friendly. Wow.
Yeah, the whole state. I've talked to a lot of landlords out of California and they're, wow, just wow down there. I don't know why there's actually landlords in California. It's so bad. But at the same time, there's lots of big corporations moving in and buying up rental property. So,
well, Teresa, if you want to get $1.25 on your dollar, come up to Canada. You're going to pay 25% less up here. And if you're so inclined, I'd love to have you on the show one day. I'd love to know more about California and see what that's all about. Oh, she just replied here. She says, I'm in California and from California. Well, you know what, my dear, I'd love to chat with you offside. So feel free to reach out to me if you can find me on Facebook and
here on Wednesdays.
Or here on Wednesdays. But I'd love to get you on the show and find all about California so we can let our Alberta or landlords just see, and I'll repeat it, just how good we actually have it just by using the system that's in place.
So here's another good one for you. Yeah, as Teresa, her next comment is most landlords are quitting and it's so bad. From Deborah Drummond yesterday, hello, if a tenant's lease has ended, this is the one you commented on. If a tenant's lease has ended and another agreement was not done, does that mean they are now in a month-to-month lease? If so, how much notice do you have to give the tenants if you want them out? This tenant is always late on rent, is always rude, and said I have to give 90 days notice to vacate. Any advice would be appreciated. I believe that's the one you also commented on, wasn't it, Chris?
Yeah, but you go ahead and run with that, Bill, while I look around here. So
okay,
because I know
it's lack of knowledge, right? It's landlording 101. You've already admitted the tenant was bad. You've already admitted they're paying late all the time. That should have been giving them a note in advance. Basically, hey, we're not renewing the lease. If you're not expecting to get paid for that last month, you've got to make some judgment calls on your own behalf. I recommend people give it more than a month so that the tenant has plenty of time to give out and be prepared to actually go through the eviction process if they don't pay for that last month. But, that's kind of your call. If you want to cut it right to the month and after they paid you, give them notice. If the market's really tight, you might have a harder time getting them out. And you may still have to go through an eviction because they couldn't find a place at the end of the month. And now you have to legally go through an eviction. And if they start paying attention and discover that they might not get a hearing for 4 or 5 or 6 weeks, that might not even push them to go look for another place, which creates new problems. But, ultimately you want to be on a fixed term lease. If you're having issues, give them ample notice to get out. If they're a real pain in the butt, let them know you'll break the end of the lease early if they'll leave early. Just the priority is getting control of your property back and getting the right people in instead of dealing with the difficult people. That's my quick take.
Right. Well, Teresa Billingsley, I just tried to find you on Facebook, but you have a lot of brothers or a lot of sisters out there, I should say, because there's a lot of you. So couldn't find you to send a hi on Facebook. So hopefully you can find me and join our Facebook group, or you can look for Alberta Landlord Community on Facebook as a group and send a request to join and just put a comment in there that you were on the show, and I'll have a look at it with the other admins there and reach back out to you. Then I know who you are. So, but wouldn't that be something? Come on up here for an extra 75 cents on the dollar is what you're going to buy a place for. So you can make a lot of money. And
depending on where you are in California, I mean, Alberta, Calgary, and Edmonton, we're seeing a lot of landlords from Ontario and Vancouver buying here because they get so much more bang for their buck. Because we look at the prices and we're going, oh my God, they're getting out of control. And they're going, oh my God, what a steal it is to buy property there. I just sold my 1,100 square foot bungalow for 1.9 million, and I can buy a 2,500 square foot home in Calgary for only 700 grand.
Well, I had one gentleman I was talking to. He's selling his fourplex, and from the sale of that fourplex in the area of Ontario he's in, he can pick up a 23-unit apartment building out here
and pay for it.
Well, pretty much.
Just about, yeah.
It's crazy, eh? It's crazy the differences, right? So. What else we got for questions here, folks? Edmonton Eviction Services. There's Don Gray just joined us. Welcome aboard, sir. Hope things are doing well for you up there. Don is one of our premier page sponsors, and Don runs an eviction service up in Edmonton. You do want to get a hold of Don, and you do want to get a hold of Rob. They are very educated people and do a very good job in the hearings and preparing your case for you. So there's your plug for the day, sir.
Here's an easy one from the other day from Cheryl Ham-Perrant. We're selling our house and has a basement suite. The tenant wants to stay, so we're offering that option to new buyers. If someone does want to assume the tenant, how does that work with the damage deposit? My preference would be to return it to the tenant and let the new owner collect a new one. Is this allowed? Chris, do you know this one?
So, sorry,
they're selling the property with a tenant in the basement.
Oh, yeah.
She wants to return the security deposit to the tenant and have the new landlord collect their own.
No.
Exactly.
100%, 150,000% no. This would all be negotiated with your lawyer and through the sale.
Keith actually said that very thing. That's all left to the lawyers, and that's it exactly. It's the taxes, the security deposits, the rent collection is all dealt with through the lawyers.
And if you're doing a private sale, well, the answer is still no.
Yeah, and it's all still through your lawyer, because even if it's a private sale, you should be using a lawyer.
Yeah, you're going to be using a lawyer anyway, and to straighten that out. So, that's something you don't want to get too mixed up in. You want to be able to, the money's got to go with the sale and pass it over. So, where else are we at here, sir?
This one pops up quite often from Trina Fair. Question: I have a friend in a fixed tenancy agreement that was just notified on a yearly contract that she has to move out before April 1st. This was from yesterday. Correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't she get at least a 90-day notice regardless of it being a fixed term agreement? Kind of touched on this with the other one. Mm-hmm. And it's back to the rules specify you don't have to give any advanced warning about terminating a fixed term lease. The dilemma is, if you don't give them any notice, how can they be out in time?
That's right.
So, figure it out. If they're a problem tenant, and you've got another 3 months, give them an advance warning saying you will not be renewing. And, if they want to break the lease early, As long as, it fits into the rules where the place is clean and vacated and you have 30 days notice, sure, you can break the lease early. Now you've gotten rid of a problem tenant sooner than having to, some people are worried, well, I'll be out money for 2 months. Well, it's a headache. They're a problem. Get rid of them, get rid of the problem, reset, and do it right moving forward. So think about it. And so it's a conundrum. The rules say you don't have to give notice, but it's in your best interest to give notice. Otherwise, they're not going to leave and they'll have nowhere to go. And you're stuck with them. And then you fall into the trap where maybe it turns into a monthly lease because you've done things wrong and now it's ugly.
I'm just grabbing, there's some other tenant pages or tenant/landlord pages out there that are dedicated to just, sometimes they're just throwing stuff out there and everybody gets into conflict on them. But because of the mixture that's in there. But I'm going to take this question off of there because it does come up on our page. It says the rental deposit from a tenant, does that need to be placed into an interest savings account? And when the deposit is returned to the tenant, does deposit include the interest accumulated? Is that given back?
Yes. But that interest rate for the last, what was it, since 2003, or I believe it was 2005, somewhere around there, it's been zero. So they get a whopping zero. The challenge that landlords have is, bank accounts are expensive. So you might have to shop around. So you're putting money in the bank account that you have to pay $9, $10, $12 for. So there are some zero fee bank accounts out there. You just have to search around and have a lot of banking going on.
Yes. If you've had a tenant that's been with you for 2, 3, 4 years or whatever, and you've had it in that separate account, and why not? You know what? The pennies that it's accumulated isn't costing you anything. Why wouldn't you give it back to them? The cents a year that you made, right? So here's the other part of that question, though. Has to be in a separate account. And it says in the act, it must be in a
trust account.
Now, I addressed this on a show going back, but I'm going to bring it up again. So I dug and I dug and I dug and I dug. I went as deep as I could. And at the end of the day, we as mom and pops type landlords, we can't get a trust account. So what they're saying when I talked to the residential tenant or Service Alberta, and up there we had a discussion about it. The simple fact is that put it into a separate account so that it's outside of your regular business banking account. That way the money's there. And that's fine with them. They will never, quote, never pursue a landlord because you didn't follow the regulation and put it into a trust account. It's not possible. They know that. So they said, just put it into a savings account and just keep it separate. If you're going to have a problem and you're going to be go bankrupt or something, and that money, somehow you have to go to the trustee and say, this money is my tenant, it's not mine. The trustee in a bankruptcy will deal with that for you. If you use that money to pay your credit card or buy your time something else, then you're going to be in a little bit of poop. And yes, you can face charges. And yes, the penalties can be quite heavy. But this thing where tenants say I want proof that it's put into a separate trust account. So all I read into that from a tenant is they're being spiteful. There's a conflict arising between the tenant and the landlord. And if you dig into their relationship, there's something else that spurred that on, because never, ever, ever have I been asked by a tenant if I have it in a different account, which I do, because I don't want it messed up with my banking and I don't want a mistake for it to disappear. So it's in a different account. So when a tenant is asking that question, they've been reading the Residential Tenancy Act or they've been talking to Google Lawyer, and and now they're challenging you, but they don't know the rest of the answer.
Yeah.
So what's this question here? Facebook answers. They said,
will cash in an envelope in a safe work?
No.
And Don answered that just below that. You need a paper trail again.
Yeah. No, don't do that. Why would you do that? Get your money. It's just it's a no fee bank account. That's it. And just put it in there. Forget it. Set it and forget it. I've been watching too many infomercials. Set it and forget it. Yes, you have to, like Don says, you have to show where it is. So you have to have an accounting of it. So service about, or somebody comes to you and says, where's this money? Maybe it's your bankruptcy trustee because you went sideways. Hey, we had a show on this too. I actually had a trustee come into our show and we talked about all this because I actually had a tenant who had lost her money to a landlord and he couldn't pay her and couldn't give her money back when she left. And I said, it's too bad she hadn't got a hold of me just a couple of days sooner. I would have suggested to her that she stay an extra month and just not pay, because he's not going to go after her because he has to account for where the money is. And he goes to a hearing and they hear he's lost it. He's not going to do anything. So stay a month for free if you have to.
It's amazing how much stuff we can do to help tenants with these landlords that are making mistakes.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. They're getting eviction information wrong. They're breaking the rules with security deposits. They're breaking the rules with notices. There was another one up here and I can't find it right now. This was from a few days ago, maybe even a week ago now. Mm-hmm. Somebody was asking about what to do. The tenant's mail keeps on showing up at the property. There's an ex-tenant's mail keeps on showing up at the property. Mm-hmm. There's really not that much you can do. You just return to sender. I've dealt with that for years and years and years. If it was important enough for them, they can pay the $36 or $60 or $90, depending on how long they want to get their mail forwarded. But there's nothing you can really do to stop the mail continuing to come to the property if they haven't bothered to do any of that. Yeah. Hopefully by returning to sender, the sender can note it that the tenant's not there anymore, but
they will.
Your control.
I did talk to Canada Post about that one time. And what they do is they return to sender stuff. They keep a stockpile of it. And then once they have enough of it, then they return it.
Not so it could be a year.
Yeah, it could be a while. It's not instantly done. So if you're at your community mailboxes, keep a pen in your car or whatever. And if you know you're getting this stuff, just say RTS and strike the address across it and throw it in the mail. Just slide it back in. If you got home delivery, I don't know. Does anybody have home delivery anymore?
I don't know if they have that anymore.
Yeah.
So we used to have that with, all the rooming houses I used to have. Tenants would turn over fairly quickly and some would be getting mail there for months and months and months afterwards. And it's not really my problem. If it was important mail, you'd get it forwarded off to wherever you're going. Mm-hmm. I know some of them would stop by once or twice a week to see if there was any mail for them. But, for the most part, it was just return to sender, return to sender, return to sender.
Let's quickly talk about my second eviction that I had today that I helped a lady with. And we'll go fast with this one because we're just about out of time. 7 minutes. Yes. Landlord rents out 4 rooms in the house. She has 3 good renters. They all get along. Everything's fine. One lady is a fly in, fly out. She's out for 2 weeks, in for 2 weeks, out for 1 kind of thing. She picks one new person to come in, and that's the fly in the ointment. And the ointment is everywhere. It's a mess. Here we go. Watch Bill's face when I say this. No lease.
Yay.
No lease agreement. And so the only thing that happened there was it's a verbal lease, and we got the tenant that would admit, and the tenant had made some payments, but refused to pay refused to pay March's payment because she's mad at the landlord. The landlord, did they do a bunch of stuff? Yeah, the landlord thinks, oh, you're renting a room. You're under the Innkeepers Act. So the landlord shows up because she hasn't paid, takes everything out of the renter's room, throws it all out on the front step and locks the door and says, new key, you're not getting in. Police get involved. And the police are right on this one. Like, it's not an Innkeepers Act. It's Residential Tenancy Act. The landlord can now get charged for what they happened. And it got really messy. And so as it turns out, I got involved and I said, give that key to her now. And so she gave the key to her. And I said, get her stuff back into the house. Let's get this backed up. can I see your lease? And that's when I found out, oh, no lease. I go, oh my God, how am I ever going to fix this?
Yeah.
Okay. So am I allowed to charge stress fees when I'm doing these?
You
things?
should be able to. Yeah.
Don, can I do that? You can answer me, Don. I know what he's going to say. Anyway, so at the end of the day, we had the hearing today. Again, the tenant admits that she didn't pay. That was the issue. The tenant admits that she was smoking in the place. That was an issue. And the tenant admits another couple other things, but says that she doesn't want to leave till April 10th. And oh yeah, and I forgot to tell you that the tenant assaulted the landlord. Landlord was there, and they got fighting, and tenant grabbed the landlord's scarf, and whatever happened from that. And did she allege an assault with the police? I don't know where that's at. I'm not going to address that. But at the end of the day, we got an abatement. What do you call it when you get it moved up?
Oh, yes. That word they use.
Not abatement. That's for renters. It's the anyway, we got the hearing moved up 3 weeks to today.
Because of the assault.
Yes, because of the assault. And boom, it's done. And she's out. And I told the landlord, you stay out of there. You stay away from there. And so they have until the 31st to get out. And because it's only a room she's moving, it's no big deal. And the tenant has to make 2 payments. Abridgment. Thank you, Don. Abridgment. Yeah. Thank you, sir. And so Don has, thank you, Don. And so we have this scheduled payment. She has to pay something on Friday, and she has to pay something next Friday, and then she's out of here. So done is done. The 31st, she should be out. Otherwise, a bailiff will come in and remove them. So.
Okay. Lewis has a really good question here, and it comes up all the time.
Yes, I will put it up. If a room rental within a property, if
it's a room rental within a property, why isn't it innkeepers? What am I missing?
Do you live there, Lewis? Answer that question.
That is the key.
And we have a Facebook user. I don't have your name because I'm not on the other side of it here, but if you want to type your name in, I'd be love to have it.
It is, if it's room rentals and the landlord does not live in the property, then it falls under Residential Tenancy Act. If the landlord lives in the property and all the space is common, then it falls under Innkeepers Act. So to clarify that a bit more, if you have 3 rooms in a basement suite and the landlord lives in a suite upstairs, it's not all shared common space. The landlord has his own separate space above, so it still falls under Residential Tenancy Act. If that landlord is sharing the kitchen and living room upstairs, now we start falling under Innkeepers Act.
Oh, that's Helen. She said, why not RTA?
The landlord lived there, but no.
Yeah.
Landlord does not live there.
Yeah, that was another fly in that ointment. And it was messy because the landlord realized she was scrambling and then kind of misled the police and said, oh, I do live here. It didn't go so well. Man, oh man, don't lie. Just this is why you have this page. This is why we're here. This is why we have all these intelligent people part of it. If you don't know, ask us. Let us help you get your business going. Don't come to us and say, can you bail me out? Because that's essentially what you've done. Please bail me out of this. You know, there's the only thing I can do is throw you on the blade and being by honest. And that's how we got out of this is you throw everybody on the blade and let the residential tenancy officer figure out who's going to bleed less on this one.
Yeah. Shine a spotlight on the issue and what you've done to correct it and what you're doing to move forward. And sometimes it hurts. It's amazing how often landlords save a penny so that they can spend a couple $100 later.
Yeah. Whether
it's not doing a single key check, not doing some of the reference checks because they seem like nice people. That 2 minutes or 10 minutes or $25 that you save by not doing these processes can cost you thousands later in errors. So do the work, do the diligence.
How much does it cost you to read?
Apparently a lot.
Well, folks, please, we're being a bit of a smarty pants here with you, but you know what? Print off that Residential Tenancy Act and read it. Save it. Save a link to your iPad. I have them both here. The reason I haven't saved on my phone and my iPad is because I'm continuously putting the links up in answers. but I do refer to it because I go, there's something, and I just look quick. Oh yeah, that's what it is. Read that thing, please. We're going to wind it up here, Mr. Biko, unless you have something else you want to throw in here. So.
I'm good. I've just had so much fun again hanging out with you guys. It's been a while, so been keeping busy. Haven't been able to hang out with Chris. Haven't been able to hang out with Mac. So,
oh well, we'll get Mac. We'll get him on some good vitamin C and get him back. Teresa, I saw your message that you have Mac's email, so I'm looking forward to hearing from you. And love to hear about California. We'll get Bill in on that show, and maybe we'll talk all about California one day. So, well, folks, another night of Alberta Shop Talk from the Alberta. Well, easy there, Chris.
Wow.
Easy.
Hey, calm down, Clicky.
That's another show. We're going to wrap it up tonight, and we thank you all for attending, and thank you for your questions, and we'll see you all again soon. Put your questions up on the page. Ask us what you need. Reach out to Rob and Don. Talk to our other sponsors, Single Key, Landlord Credit Bureau, which is now Front Lobby. There's a ton of availability of resources on our page, and that's what we strive to do, and that's what we gained a lot of ground with today with the police officer that spoke to me. He says, wow, you guys sure do a lot of educating. Absolutely, we do. And that's what we're here for. Good night, everybody.
Night, everybody. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for letting me come out tonight.
Love having you. Talk to you in a moment, Bill. See you, everybody.